Hello, BookTube. A commenter on one of my videos the other day left a request for the top 10 historical novels of all time. And despite the fact that I love dishing out top 10 lists and come up with a raucous set of them every December on my intergalactically famous book blog, Steve Reads, the idea of distilling 4 centuries of historical fiction to 10 was a bit daunting even for me. So I thought I would start off, there's going to have to be more than one video, but I thought I would start off with 10 really good ones. And the unifying theme is not the time period in which they're set, but the time period in which they were published. These are basically old, moldy paperbacks, most of which have virtually no chance of ever being reprinted. So you would have to find them at thrift shops and used bookstores and, yard sales. So I thought I'd put them in your mind in case you see them, because they're all really good. They're all the real deal. We'll start off with a trio of Tutor novels, because the Tutor era is a bit of a specialty of yours truly. The first one being Godfrey Turton's My Lord of Canterbury. This is a historical novel about Thomas Cranmer, the author of the Book of Common Prayer and the bishop who helped Henry VIII to break with the Catholic Church and form his own church with himself as its psychotic leader. It wouldn't have thought possible that anyone could take a principle-free, squirming little toad like Cranmer and make him the hero of a book, much less that that book would be good, but that manages to happen in this book. Next one is Hilda Lewis, I Am Mary Tudor. This is a great big novel about Mary Tudor, the daughter of King Henry VIII and his wife, Catherine of Aragon. This is the book that she would write if people had written, much less women, had written autobiographies at the time. And it's Hilda Lewis really good at the big, absorbing historical novel that you need to do if you're going to do a subject like this. And the last one is the last one of the trio, of the Tutor trio, is a comic novel that those of you who know me have had it recommended before. It's No Bed for Bacon. This is by Carolyn Brahms and S.J. Simon, and it is basically an Italian door farce about the Elizabethan era. Everybody with a famous name has a walk-on part. I thought I'd read you a bit because the humor is so droll. The palace at Whitehall was bone white under the discovering fingers of the early morning sun. It was 5 o'clock, and the sentries had changed over. One of them was looking particularly smug. Only last week he had been a night watchman, crying the hour to unresponsive ears, and now here he was, sentry to Elizabeth of England, guarding her from sudden death and Scotsmen, privileged to challenge all who came to the great gates, in a uniform. Even now the moment was upon him, his first challenge. Great heavens, it was Sir Francis Drake. Halt, he commanded. Drake looked at him. Who goes there? He went on weakly. This is No Bed for Bacon has, unlike a lot of the novels here, been reprinted a couple of times. I can only hope it will be reprinted again. It'll make your day when you find it. Next one's a huge one. Journeyer by Gary Jennings. This is a gigantic atmospheric novel about Marco Polo and his adventures in the East. It's just a kind of, no holds barred, full stop, opulent historical fiction that people tend not to write anymore. And it has scenes in it that you will remember just forever. There's one where Marco Polo uses explosives to thwart an army. There's a smaller, more interesting one, but absolutely horrifying, where he's ingests psychotropic drugs in order to imagine going through pregnancy. It's just horrifying. And how you women do it. Gary Jennings also has written a bunch of other historical novels. This is my favorite. Our next one, I guess you could call it Tutor. I call it more Shakespeare. It's Will Shakespeare by John Mortimer, and that is a very young and hairy Tim Curry on the cover from the BBC series that this was the companion to that. John Mortimer, of course, is famous as the author of Rumpole of the Bailey. It's worth remembering that he was also a straight-up great novelist. He wrote some contemporary novels that had nothing to do with Rumpole that were brilliant. He also wrote the screenplay for Brideshead Revisited, No Mean Feat. And he wrote this, one of the best Shakespeare novels I have ever read, told from the point of view of a former actor colleague of Shakespeare's. It just takes us through the usual mythology of Shakespeare's life, including his relationship with his patron, the Earl of Southampton. I thought I'd read you that bit because it'll give you a taste of the whole book, but it's really good. This is the narrator, of course, talking to us. So I sit here, a chilly old man, writing in a blanket and mittens, who has less chance of sporting between silken sheets with a young earl than of becoming Lord Chief Justice of England. And it seems to me I must be done with this keyhole spying, and there shall be no more of it. If they did not the act of darkness, which is the act of loving, they could not have loved each other more, and if they did it, they could not thereby have loved each other less. He continues just one line. I hold his opinion, all things considered, that they did. I'll leave you to know. You know what the act of darkness is. This is book 2. We're all adults here. The next book is full of the act of darkness. It's Paul Wellman's old, this is yellow pages and everything, his old gigantic novel about the Empress Theodora, the wife of the Emperor Justinian, and her life in Byzantium, her life and loves in Byzantium, and it's just body and smart, and it sticks close to the sources that we have for what really happened. And it's long gone, of course. The Theodora continues to get novels, none as good as this. So if you see it, it's had a few different covers. So you just pay attention to Wellman and the female. But if you see it, this is the one to get. Next one, we go way back in time. This is The Child of Mourning by Pauline Gedge. Look at that wonderful old mass market cover. This is about Hatshepsut, a female pharaoh of ancient Egypt. Pauline Gedge written many novels about ancient Egypt. This is the best of them all, and was also, as far as I know, the one that sold. And it's so smart. It's just so good. Next we come forward in time to ancient Rome. This is Robert de Maria's book Claudia. And as some of you will know, more classically trained from the title, it is a novel about Catullus, the Roman poet Catullus. And Claudia, his Lesbia, the Roman noblewoman who was the scandal of all Rome for her licentious ways, and also his paramour, his romantic obsession. Before I read this book, I thought, we have everything we need to know about his time and that relationship and his mind during that relationship in his incredible poems. But this is really good. One of the best Roman historical novels that I've ever read, and as far as I know, I've read them all. So it'll never be reprinted. So if you see it, grab it. And then we come to English history. Our last two. This is Catherine by Anya Seton. And it is the story of Catherine Swynford, who was the longtime mistress and finally the wife of John of Gaunt, the famous warmongering son of Edward III. And John of Gaunt and Catherine Swynford were also the patrons of the poet Chaucer, because Chaucer married Catherine's sister. And that whole of that time period, just fascinating, violent, colorful time period, brought amazingly to life in this book. Catherine Seton also written many other books. This is the one of hers that I wish Penguin would reprint. And our last book is My Lord John by Georgette Hare, who some of you will know her as a great Regency romance writer, and she is probably the best of them all. This was her life's work. This was her life's passion. She would write the Regency romances to pay the bills, but she kept working on this book, which is a historical novel about the son of Henry IV, the brother of Henry V, just an all-around nice guy who, is off to the left-hand side of the world stage, and the strong-willed woman that was his wife, and their life going through court. And it's not finished. her husband had to pull together all the vast amounts of stuff that she had written when she died. But it's finished enough to lose yourself in. It's an absorbing book. And that's it. That's a start. That's 10 old mass market paperback historical fiction novels that are great. So from there, we'll move on to, I think the next one I'll do will be 10 contemporary historical novels, stuff in the last 25 years that you should definitely read. So I'll see you then. Thanks.